Alright guys, today and tonight I'll be installing some lights in my back bumper, flush mount lights, and then also installing a backup camera that hooks to my radio. I've had, but haven't ever put it in, because put the backup camera in, it's hard to see at night, which is actually about the only time I actually use the camera to be able to hook to a trailer if it's dark outside. So I bought some lights on Amazon about 8 or 9 months ago. I'll add a link in the description if anybody is interested in getting some of these lights. They're not too bad priced, and they were they're actually kind of nice. They're night lights is what they're called, N-I-L-I-T-E, I believe. I actually have already installed them, but the first clip I had I've lost it. You have to cut a hole in your back bumper or whatever you're putting them in. I put them in the bumper, so I had to cut the holes in them. So I had to make a template for that. And in order to do that, I used a square here, adjustable. I can slide it down across here and tighten it up so it's there wherever you have it for the length. But I took the light, you can kind of see in the picture here, and I have it actually traced out all the way around the outside edge of the light. And then I put drew the holes where the holes are going to go on both sides. And then in the center here is where the light's at, the back of the light. And you'll see that later on in the video, but I took this square and I put it up against the edge of the light. And then I marked the bottom side on both sides. And I did that for top, bottom, left, and right. And then I drew my lines across to be able to have that. And the back of the light actually is rounded on the corners a little bit, but I figured if it was square, it would still be all right, because you have a cover up where it's going to cover the hole. And then I cut that out, and I made sure the light would actually fit inside that hole, just to make sure before you go cutting a hole in your back bumper and it be wrong. And then you're out, because it's going to be ugly, because you're going to see the holes behind it. So I wanted a nice clean look by doing them. I didn't want lights hanging down below anywhere, or any big light bar back there. These are actually pretty nice. I'll try to get a clip at the end and showing them at the night, and with the backup camera without the lights, and then with the lights, and see how well you can actually see with it. But I did that so I could actually put that right on the light, or right there in the back bumper, and then trace it out to be able to cut it out. And just old school with the grinder, no plasma or torch or anything, just nothing crazy, just simple straight lines. And you can actually drill the corners out with a drill to be able to have it nice and neat, crisp lines if the hole is too small, if you're trying to cut a small one. But this was a big enough rectangle here that it was pretty okay drilling or cutting out with a grinder. So then I missed a little bit. I cut the first hole before I realized it wasn't recording. I had to go actually format the SD card right. It wasn't formatted quite right for this. Got that fixed, all that. So the first hole is cut. It'll go into the second hole, marking that out and cutting it out. I'll show you that part. Go through here, but I decided to put these in though, because I said trying to back up to the trailer, it's hard to see without that light being there. Can't quite. I normally back up with my mirrors looking at where I'm adjusting at off the trailer. Pretty well get it every time, but at night it's a little harder to see the sides of the trailer to connect to that, to find it, to see how far away I am or left or right I am. So I only use the really camera for backing up at night, but I didn't ever install it in this truck when I got it and pulled it out of my old truck to put it in this one, because never had the lights. So like I said, I ordered these about 8.5 months ago. And they actually turned out pretty nice. But like I said, I'll put the description, or in the description below, of where the Amazon link to if anybody else is interested in them, and I'll also show you at night. They're not super bright, but they're bright enough to be able to see the trailer and backing up, and yeah, they're pretty nice. Got the first hole cut. Slide this light in here. Now I just got to mark and drill these holes out. I'll get the other hole cut out over here. Get this hole cut out here. Got the garage door open up now that I got those holes cut out with the grinder there. Since it's about 11 o'clock at night and in town, didn't want to be that neighbor, you know, so try to minimize the sound. Got that light taped up in there. I'm gonna use a center punch and center those holes so I can drill them out. You can see that. Pull the light out and show you. So I'll drill them with the light out. So the light up on there. I don't know if you can. I don't know if that's gonna pick up on there or not. Oh yeah, you can kind of see them right there. Right there, just makes a little divot. Makes it a lot easier drilling them out. People try to mark them and you'll never drill a straight hole. And you miss it, and when you go to put your bolts in, after you drill those holes, be off-centered. And you gotta oval that hole out to go get those bolts lined up. As long as you get that center punch dead center in the center of those holes, you can drill them right out and bolts slide right in. Do the same the other side and over here, and I'll show you guys after I drill the holes out. Another trick, guys, is always start with a smaller drill bit than you actually need. Start with a smaller bit, it'll go through there a lot easier. Then you just step yourself up all the way up to the bigger ones. But if I had a smaller bit, it'd even go smaller than this at first just to make sure I get it good. But this is doing okay. That's not too thick of metal there. You go into big holes like 3/8 hole or 5/8 hole or 3/4 inch or anything big. You always want to start small and work your way up, unless you have a good sharp drill bit. But even then, trying to get that centered in that little divot that I use that center punch to make, it's a lot harder. Being as I misplaced the bag of screws that came with this other light, I had to utilize some other screws that I had laying around. Stove bolts. Use them for right now until I can get to the store tomorrow. Get some of the Allen screws that I need to replace the ones I lost or misplaced, or I guess that's what you get for buying a set of lights to put in your truck and wait about 8 months to finally put them in. I only have 3 of these, but it'll work. Hold its purpose until I can get the correct Allen screws. So they actually look like they're supposed to. Over here. Get these Allen screws to stick out a little ways. I'll get them to match up the same way. But, like I said, for now, this will do. Alright guys, I got the rear view camera here mounted. And I ran the wires all the way back to the back here. I'll show you. So I've ran them inside plastic conduit, wire conduit. I've wrapped electrical tape all the way around it just to make sure it stays in, because when you bend it, it'll pop out quite often. So got it all taped up. Made the same connections as I did to the back of the lights to those plugs. So if I needed to change the lights out, I can just put a new plug on the new end of the light, put it back in. Heat shrinked all of them. I've got my AV connector here going to the camera, and it is heat shrink together just to make sure it don't come apart and keep moisture out of it. I've actually had this on another truck before and took it off, and when I traded it in, and now be the second time using the long, I think 15-footer running up to the radio and the backup camera itself. I'm gonna tape this back up here at the end, tape this together a little bit and zip tie it up out of the way. This wire here is for the backup camera. I got it hooked to the reverse light to be able to turn the camera on or activate the camera, to then it will pop up on the radio as a backup camera. So I'll get that all taped up and zip tied out of the way. Hook my reverse lights in to the wire here. Kind of show you a little bit without going too far underneath here. It's hard to see, but how I ran this wire made it easy with no spare tire in here, but runs up frame. I don't know if I can get a shot of that or not. I don't know if you guys can see that far or not, but it's ran up there in front of that, coming up over the axle here. And across the tank here. And I'll take you up and around here and show you. Right there in the center of the frame here, I'll maybe put some arrows to it or circle it. Come around and show you the other side too, where it goes back up into the cab, and then I'll show you how I ran that when I get up there. Get the rest of that hooked up. But of course I got it zip tied wherever I could get it, so it'd be away from the drive shaft and any rubbing parts. But I will I'll button this up here, and then I'll take you up in the cab and show you how I'm hooking the switches in and how I'm running some of them wires. And then maybe probably come back here and show you this all tied up out of the way here too. Alright, well, got the wiring ran now, hooked up. I'll show you here. So the back seat channel here comes up through the floor right down underneath of that through a rubber grommet. Ran up through the channels side here in between here. Up into the front. They're all tucked down in through here. Come up underneath the dash. On the back side, I got my switches mounted here. Turn it on, I got a indicator saying it's on. Come back to the back here. Still have tape on them, but they are on. This is with the lights off. And evidently my backup lights on this truck are a lot brighter than the last truck. So I can actually see the trailer in the background and the ball and everything else. But if I turn the lights on, I can actually see the trailer tires even. But with the lights off, you can barely make that out. With the camera I can see it, but by the bare eye you really don't see it very well. So it does brighten it up quite a bit back there. But after I back up, to the trailer, now we will go back here, and you really can't see a whole lot of anything. So this is where this is going to come in handy. Because now, with those lights on, I can see my wiring here, my jack. Come around, if I've already hooked up to the trailer, I can actually see tires, make sure they're aired up. Won't have to carry around a flashlight or none of that, but so I'm still happy with them. Said I probably don't need them as much to back up to a trailer with these. These backup lights in the truck are actually pretty bright, but I can definitely see a lot more with those lights on though. I'll pull up away from this here in a little bit and get you a better shot of how far they actually shine and how bright they actually show. Yeah, they show pretty far. They light up my garage even. I'm a good 25 feet away from the garage, and my garage is 24 feet deep. I could definitely go in there and find the right wrench in that toolbox. So if anybody's contemplating putting them in or not, I recommend them. It wasn't a whole lot of work for me, a couple hours maybe, but definitely money well spent. even though it took me about 9 months to put them in. So, but like I said, I'll include in the description of this video the brand of these lights from Amazon. They are definitely worth it in my book. So